The first night I came back to Willow Creek, I heard my name from the dark like a dare. "Eli, is that really you?" I froze with my suitcase still in my hand. Then I saw her leaning over the white fence next door, porch light behind her, smile bright enough to make my chest feel tight. Harper Dawson. The girl I once promised I would marry. The girl I had not seen in 6 years. And the way she looked at me in that moment made me wonder if that promise had been waiting for me the whole time. My name is Eli Grayson. I'm 24, and a few months ago I found myself driving back into the sleepy little town where I grew up. Willow Creek, Nebraska. The kind of place surrounded by cornfields that stretch forever, where the roads get dusty fast, and where people still wave even if they do not know your name. In Chicago, everything moved too fast. Here, time felt like it sat down and stayed a while. I had left Willow Creek for college in Chicago, chasing a bigger life. I studied economics, worked office jobs after graduation, and tried to pretend I was becoming the person I was supposed to be. But the truth was, every cubicle felt like a box I could not breathe in. I would stare at numbers all day and feel empty. One day, I quit without a plan, packed my old truck, and drove home because I needed to remember who I was before the world got its hands on me. My parents' house still sat at the end of Laurel Street, quiet and familiar. The porch had that same green moss on the steps. The backyard was overgrown, weeds taller than they should be. The white picket fence ran between our yard and the Dawson yard like it always had. The same fence Harper and I used to talk over when we were kids. Dad still spent time in the garage with classic rock playing low. Mom still brewed coffee strong and black every morning. They welcomed me like I had never left. Dad clapped me on the shoulder and told me to take my time. Mom hugged me tight and promised apple pie. No questions, no guilt, just home. And then there was Harper, right next door, like she had been placed there by fate just to remind me of everything I tried to forget. Harper and I had known each other since we were little. Our moms were best friends, so we were always together. I still remember the first time I really noticed her. I was climbing the big oak tree behind our houses, and I scraped my knee coming down. I was trying not to cry, but it hurt. Harper ran over with a bandage she stole from her mom's first aid kit and pressed it on my skin like she was saving my life. "Don't cry, Eli," she told me, dead serious. Heroes don't cry. I was 10 years old, bleeding, and somehow she made me feel brave. After that, we were inseparable. Summers were our world. We built forts out of blankets and branches, played water gun battles until we were soaked, and chased fireflies at dusk until our parents called us inside. At night, we would lie on the grass and stare at the stars, talking about aliens and what we would be when we grew up. I wanted to be an astronaut. Harper wanted to be a writer, telling stories about faraway places we would escape to one day. Winters were just as magical. We built snowmen that always leaned sideways, then warmed up inside with hot cocoa and old Disney movies. She argued that Aladdin was the coolest. I said Simba. We both acted like it mattered. The memory that stayed with me the most was one June afternoon when we were 10. It was hot, sticky heat that made your shirt cling to your back. We spent the day at the town fair laughing until our faces hurt. I won a cheap plastic ring from a claw machine, the kind with a fake diamond that caught the light like it was real. Harper wore a yellow sundress, her hair in pigtails, holding cotton candy with a proud grin. My hands shook as I held the ring out to her, acting like I was doing something huge. "When we grow up, I'm going to marry you, Harper," I said. "Promise you won't marry anyone else." She stared at me with wide eyes, then laughed. Not mean, just surprised. She slipped the ring onto her pinky because it was too big, and nodded like it was serious business. "Okay, Eli," she said, "but if you break it, you owe me ice cream for the whole school year." We even wrote it down on notebook paper with crayons, drew hearts in the margins, and hid it in a shoebox in her attic. We called it the secret promise box. As we got older, life shifted. Middle school brought different classes and different friends. I got into basketball and spent my afternoons on the court. Harper spent hers at the library, volunteering, stacking books, talking to anyone who would listen about stories she loved. We still waved through our windows, still talked over the fence, still showed up for each other in small ways. She cheered the loudest at my games. I saw her light on late at night and wondered what she was reading. But that promise faded into the background, like a childhood joke you tell at family dinners. Until the night I came home. When Harper called my name over the fence, I felt warmth spread through me like I had not felt in years. She looked the same, and also completely different. Her smile was still bright, but there was a calm confidence in her eyes now, like she had learned things life did not teach me yet. "Finally decided to come home, huh?" she asked. "Don't tell me you're leaving again soon." I laughed, but my voice sounded rough, like I was nervous and did not want her to notice. "No," I said. "This time I'm staying." The next morning I went for a run around the neighborhood, trying to clear my head. The streets were quiet. Just a few early dog walkers and porch lights still on. I had not gone far when I saw Harper on her front steps, tying her shoes. She looked up and smiled like she had been waiting for me. "Eli, perfect timing," she called. "Come with me. I'm running my loop around the lake." I fell into step beside her without thinking. It felt easy, like we had never stopped. After the run, we grabbed coffee at the corner diner, the same one we used to sneak into as teens. She ordered a cappuccino with extra foam like she owned the place. I ordered an iced latte out of habit, even though the morning was cool. We talked like no time had passed. She asked about Chicago, and I told her the truth. The long hours, the office grind, the feeling of being invisible. She listened, really listened, then said, "It sounds exciting, but exhausting." Her eyes held mine like she could see straight through me. "What brought you back?" I shrugged. "I needed a reset," I admitted. That afternoon, I went into the backyard to pull weeds, trying to help my dad out. I was down in the dirt when Harper leaned over the fence and smiled. "Need a hand?" she asked. "Looks like a jungle back there." Before I could answer, she hopped over with gloves like she had already decided. We worked side by side, laughing, teasing, smearing dirt on our arms like kids again. Then she paused, wiped her forehead, and looked around the yard like she was seeing ghosts. "Remember the forts we built out here?" she said softly. "We pretended it was a castle." I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "And you always made me be the dragon." She laughed, but her eyes went quiet for a second, like something deeper was sitting behind them. As the sun dropped lower, we took a break on the porch swing with lemonade my mom brought out. The air was warm, and the world felt strangely peaceful. Harper looked at me like she was about to say something she had held in for a long time. Then she did. "You know," she said, voice soft, "I still have it." I blinked. "Have what?" She tipped her head toward her house, and her smile turned small, almost nervous. "The secret promise box," she said. "It's still up in my attic." Harper led me across her backyard like we were sneaking into trouble, even though we were grown adults now. The old screen door creaked when she opened it, and the smell inside her house hit me fast. Cinnamon, books, and something familiar I could not name. It felt like stepping into a memory that had been waiting. "Attic is up there," she said, pointing to the pull-down ladder in the hallway ceiling. She tried to sound casual, but her fingers kept twisting the hem of her shirt. That small nervous habit made my chest squeeze. Harper had always been brave when we were kids. Seeing her unsure made me realize this was not just some silly throwback for her. I pulled the ladder down, and dust floated in the air as the steps unfolded. "You sure you want to dig through all that?" I asked. She nodded. "I've been sure for years." Quote. I climbed first, then reached down to help her up. The attic was dim, lit only by a small window at the far end. Boxes were stacked in uneven towers. Old holiday decorations, a broken lamp, photo albums, and toys that looked like they had not been touched since we were in middle school. Harper moved with purpose, like she knew exactly where to go. "Over here," she said. She knelt by a trunk and pulled out a faded shoebox with our messy crayon scribbles still on the lid. Secret promise box. My handwriting was crooked. Harper's hearts were everywhere. She held it like it was fragile, like it could fall apart if she squeezed too hard. My throat went tight. I can't believe it's still here. I almost threw it away once, she admitted, when I was 16, after your going-away party. She looked up at me, eyes steady. But I couldn't. She opened the lid, and we both leaned in. Inside were little pieces of our childhood, dried flowers, a few marbles, a torn movie ticket, and a stack of folded paper. Harper lifted the crumpled notebook page like it was a sacred thing. I recognized the big letters right away. Eli promises to marry Harper when we're big. No takebacks. Harper read it out loud in a mock-serious voice at first, and I laughed because it was funny and sweet and embarrassing. But her laughter faded fast. Her eyes stayed on the paper longer than they should have. Then she reached into the box again and pulled something out that made my stomach flip. The plastic ring. The fake diamond was scratched and dull now, but it was the same ring. The one I won at the fair. The one I gave her like it meant forever. Harper held it in her palm and her fingers shook. "You kept it," I said, quieter than I meant to. "I kept all of it," she replied. "Not because I thought you owed me anything." Her voice softened. "I kept it because it reminded me that once someone wanted to stay." I did not know what to say. The attic felt smaller. The air felt heavier. I stared at the ring and realized it was not just a childhood joke to her. It was a piece of hope she carried through years I was not here for. "I'm sorry," I said before I could stop myself. She blinked. "For what?" "For leaving," I said. "For acting like this town was something I had to escape. For not calling more. For not realizing what it would feel like for you." Harper looked down, then let out a slow breath like she had been holding it for a long time. "I was proud of you," she said. "I still am. You did what you were supposed to do. You went out there and tried." "And you stayed," I said. Her mouth pressed into a thin line, and for a second I saw the weight she carried. "Someone had to," she said. "Mom got sick when we were in high school. She was gone so fast. Then Dad started slipping. It started small, like forgetting a name, losing his keys. Now he forgets whole days." I swallowed hard. I knew some of that, but hearing her say it felt different. Real. Heavy. "I'm still here because of him," she continued. "The library job helps. The routine helps. But some days I feel like I'm living the same week over and over." She looked up at me, eyes shining but stubborn. "And some days I hear your truck in my head like it's pulling into town, and I hate myself for it." My chest hurt. "Harper," I said, stepping closer without thinking. She lifted the ring. "I used to tell myself that you were going to come back," she said. "Not to marry me. I wasn't that delusional." She tried to smile, but it broke. "Just to show up, to remind me that the world was bigger than hospital rooms and quiet dinners alone." I reached for her hand, slow, giving her a chance to pull away. She did not. Her fingers were cold. I closed my hand around hers, and she stared at our hands like she was surprised by how good it felt. "I'm here now," I said. "I can't undo anything, but I'm here." Harper's eyes searched my face like she was trying to decide if she could believe me. "Are you really staying?" she asked. "Yes," I said, and this time I meant it with my whole body. I don't know what my future looks like. I don't have some big plan, but I know I'm tired of running. She looked down at the ring again, then slipped it onto her pinky like she used to. It was too small now, but she made it fit. "Funny," she whispered. "It still feels like you." I let out a shaky laugh. "That's not fair." "Life isn't fair," she said, then looked up at me with a softness that made my pulse jump. "But you being back feels like a gift." The space between us suddenly felt loud. Harper's lips parted like she might say more, but she did not. Instead, she stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her shampoo, something clean and light. My heart kicked hard. I wanted to lean in. I wanted to kiss her. I wanted to test if the promise box was only a memory or something real. Harper's gaze flicked to my mouth, then back to my eyes. Her breath caught. Then a phone rang downstairs. Harper pulled back like she had been burned. Her face changed fast, that softness replaced by fear. She rushed down the ladder, almost stumbling. I followed, my heart still hammering, confused and aching. She grabbed her phone off the kitchen counter, and I watched her shoulders stiffen as she answered. "Hello," she said, voice tight. I could not hear the other side, but I saw Harper's face drain of color. She sank into a chair, one hand gripping the edge of the table. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, I'm coming." She hung up and looked at me like she had forgotten I was there. Her eyes were wide, wet, terrified. "It's my dad," she said. "They say he's not doing well. They want me at the nursing home right now." My body moved before my brain did. I grabbed my keys. "I'm coming with you," I said. Harper hesitated for half a second, then nodded, like she could not fight any more. "Okay," she whispered. "Please." As we rushed out into the night, the promise box sat upstairs in the attic, open like a wound. And I had a sinking feeling that what waited at the nursing home was going to change everything between us. The drive to the nursing home felt longer than it should have. Willow Creek was quiet at night, but my hands were tight on the steering wheel like I was fighting the whole road. Harper sat beside me, staring straight ahead. The street lights flashed over her face in quick strips of light and shadow. She held the plastic ring in her fist like it could keep her steady. "I'm sorry," she said suddenly, her voice thin. "Stop," I replied. "You don't have to be sorry, not for this." She swallowed hard. "I hate that you're seeing me like this. I hate that you came home and the first real thing you see is my life falling apart." I wanted to tell her I did not see it that way, that I saw her, the way she kept going even when it hurt. But my throat felt tight, so I just reached over at the next stop sign and put my hand on hers. She did not look at me, but she squeezed back, quick and desperate. The nursing home sat on the edge of town, a low brick building with bright lights, and a calm sign that tried to make everything feel normal. Inside, the air smelled like soap and warm food, and the halls were quiet in that heavy way that always made my stomach twist. A nurse met us near the front desk and guided us toward the back. "Mr. Dawson had a rough evening," she said gently. "He got agitated. His heart rate jumped. We've stabilized him, but we'd like you to see him." Quote. Harper nodded like she was trying to stay brave, but her eyes were already shining. When we reached the room, she stopped at the doorway for a second like she had to gather herself. Then she stepped inside. Her dad looked smaller than I expected. I had not seen him since I was a teenager, back when he used to wave at me from the driveway and call me kiddo, like I belonged to him too. Now he lay in the bed, pale, his hair thinner, his face softer in a way that made him look older than he should have been. The machines beside him beeped quietly. His chest rose and fell, but it looked like work. Harper moved to his bedside and took his hand. "Hi, Dad," she said, her voice breaking on the word. His eyes fluttered open, slow. At first he looked past her, confused. Then his gaze landed on her face, and for a moment, something sparked. "Maggie?" he whispered. Harper flinched, but she forced a smile. Maggie was her mom's name. "No, Dad," she said softly. "It's Harper. I'm here." He blinked again, like the name did not fit. Then his eyes drifted, and he saw me standing near the foot of the bed. His brow furrowed. "Eli," he said, and my heart punched hard against my ribs. He said my name like it was real, like I had not been gone. "That you, kiddo?" I stepped forward without thinking. "Yeah," I said. "It's me. I'm back." His lips moved like he wanted to smile, but the effort looked too heavy. "Good boy," he whispered. "Told you, she'd wait." Harper's head snapped toward me. Her eyes were wide, shocked, almost angry. Like she could not believe he said it, like she could not handle what it meant. Her dad squeezed Harper's hand with a weak grip. "Don't let her be alone," he whispered. Harper shook her head fast, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Dad, please," she whispered. "Please, don't talk like that." His eyes closed again, and the nurse stepped in quietly, checking his monitors, speaking in a calm voice that felt too rehearsed. Harper stayed at the bedside, crying softly, her forehead pressed to his hand. I stood behind her, helpless. A doctor came in later, a tired man with kind eyes. He asked Harper to step into the hallway. I followed, but stayed a few feet back. giving her space while still being close enough to catch her if she fell. The doctor spoke low. "Your dad is declining," he said. "We can keep him comfortable, but this may be the beginning of the final stage. It could be days. It could be weeks." Harper's face went blank for a second, like her mind refused to accept the words. Then she nodded slowly, her lips trembling. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." When the doctor left, Harper leaned against the wall like her legs could not hold her. I stepped closer. "Harper," I said softly. She turned to me, and all the walls she always kept up were gone. "I can't do this," she said. "I've been doing it for years, Eli. Years. And now it's really happening." I took her into my arms right there in the hallway. She collapsed against me, sobbing into my shirt. People walked by, nurses, visitors, but I did not care. I just held her tighter. "You're not doing it alone," I said into her hair. "Not anymore." She pulled back, wiping her face with shaking hands. "You keep saying that," she whispered. "But what if you change your mind? What if you get bored and you leave again?" The words hit me hard because they were honest, because I deserved them. I nodded slowly. "That's fair," I admitted. "I left once. I can't erase it, but I can show you now. I can be here now." Harper stared at me like she was trying to decide if she could trust me. Her eyes dropped to my hands, and she noticed something. The plastic ring. It was still pressed into her palm, leaving a faint mark. She held it up between us. "Do you remember what you said at the fair?" she asked, voice small. "I remember," I said. She swallowed. "You said you'd marry me when we grew up." I nodded again, my heart pounding. "I did." Her eyes glistened. "And I said I hoped you'd keep that promise." The hallway felt too quiet. I could hear my own breathing. I wanted to say something perfect, something that would fix everything. But I knew better than to make big promises now. Harper did not need a fantasy. She needed something real. So I took a breath and told her the truth. "I don't know what the future looks like," I said, "but I know what I want. I want you. I want to be the man who stays. Not because 10-year-old me joked about it, but because 24-year-old me finally understands what you mean to me." Harper's breath caught. Her lips trembled. She looked like she might cry again, but instead she stepped closer. She raised her hand and pressed the plastic ring into my palm. "Then prove it," she whispered. I closed my fingers around the ring like it was the most important thing I had ever held. "Okay," I said. The next few days were a blur. Harper practically lived at the nursing home. I took time off from helping my dad and stayed near her as much as she would let me. I brought her coffee, snacks, a blanket when she fell asleep in the visitor chair. I sat quietly while she read to her dad from his favorite old Western novels, even though he barely responded. Sometimes he opened his eyes and looked at her like he almost knew her. Sometimes he did not. On the third night, Harper finally agreed to go home and rest. I drove her back in silence, the town lights soft and distant. When we pulled into her driveway, she did not get out right away. She stared at the house like it was a place she was no longer sure she belonged in. "I'm scared," she admitted quietly. "I know," I said. She turned to me. "Will you come inside for a little bit?" she asked. "Just until I fall asleep." My heart thudded. "Yeah," I said. "Of course." Inside, the house was dim, only a lamp on in the living room. Harper kicked off her shoes and sank onto the couch. Lucky was not here. They did not have a dog. But the silence still felt like it was waiting. I sat beside her, close but not touching. She leaned her head back and closed her eyes like she was trying to disappear for a second. Then she turned her face toward me. "Eli," she whispered. "Yeah?" She reached out slowly and touched my hand, her fingers sliding between mine. "I don't know how to do this," she said. "I don't know how to let someone in when I've been alone for so long." I turned my hand and held hers fully. "We do it slow," I said, "one day at a time." Harper looked at me, eyes soft, and the space between us changed. It was not just comfort anymore, it was need. It was years of unsaid things pressing up against the present. I lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. Gentle. Her breath hitched. She did not pull away. Then she leaned in, and I met her halfway. The kiss was soft at first, like we were both scared to ruin something. Then it deepened, not rushed, just real. Harper's hand slid to the back of my neck, pulling me closer. My whole body lit up, like I had been waiting my entire life for that moment. When we pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine, breathing hard. "I've wanted to do that since we were kids," she whispered, half laughing through tears. "Me too," I admitted. She smiled, but it was shaky. "If my dad—" Her voice caught, and she could not finish. I tightened my grip on her hand. "We're not talking about tomorrow," I said. "We're talking about tonight." "Tonight? I'm here." Harper nodded slowly, and for the first time in days, her shoulders relaxed. But just as the quiet settled, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw the caller ID Chicago, a number I had not seen in months. My old boss. My stomach dropped, because deep down, I knew the city had not let go of me yet. And if I answered, everything I was building with Harper might get tested in ways I was not ready for. My phone buzzed again, and the screen kept lighting up like it refused to take no for an answer. Chicago. My old boss. I stared at it like it was a snake on the floor between us. Harper noticed right away. Her eyes moved from my face to the phone, then back to me. The softness from our kiss did not disappear, but something else slid in beside it. Fear. The kind that comes from experience. "Aren't you going to answer?" she asked quietly. I swallowed. My thumb hovered over the screen. For a second I wanted to ignore it and keep holding her hand like nothing else existed. But I knew that would only make the moment weaker. Harper deserved honesty, even if it hurt. "I'll answer," I said. "But I'm not going anywhere tonight." Quote. I picked up the call and put it on speaker, mostly because I did not want secrets. "Hello?" A sharp voice filled the room, the same voice that used to own my time. "Eli Grayson, there you are. I've been trying to reach you for weeks." "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. "I've been busy." "I don't care," she snapped. "Listen, we're short-staffed. We have a new project, big client. They want you back. 2-year contract, great money. You start Monday." My stomach twisted. Harper's hand tightened around mine, but she stayed silent. "I quit," I said. "You left," my boss replied, like she was correcting a child. "That is different. You were good at your job. I'm giving you a way back. Don't be stupid." I felt Harper's eyes on me like heat. This was the moment, the test, the thing she was scared of. "I'm not coming back," I said, steady now. "I'm in Nebraska. I'm home." There was a pause, then a laugh that held no humor. "Home? You're throwing away your career to play small-town hero?" My jaw tightened. I glanced at Harper, at the way she tried to keep her face calm, like she was bracing for impact. "I'm choosing my life," I said. "You can find someone else." "You'll regret it," my boss hissed. "Maybe," I said, "but I'd regret leaving more." I ended the call before she could say anything else. The room went quiet, but my heart was loud. Harper stared at me for a long second. Then her shoulders dropped like she had been holding them up for years. She let out a shaky breath and leaned into me, pressing her forehead against my chest. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "Yes, I did," I said. "Because if I keep one promise in my life, it has to start with being honest about where I want to be." Her arms wrapped around my waist, tight, not desperate, grateful. Like she was afraid the moment would vanish if she loosened her grip. That night, Harper fell asleep with her head on my shoulder, and I stayed on the couch without moving, even when my arm went numb. I listened to her breathing and the soft creaks of the house settling. I kept thinking about her dad's words. "Don't let her be alone." I did not know if he meant it as a request, a blessing, or a warning, but I knew I could not pretend anymore. My feelings for Harper were not nostalgia. They were real. The next morning, we went back to the nursing home together. Harper brought her dad clean socks and a small radio because he used to love classic country. I brought coffee and a quiet promise I did not say out loud. I will stay. The days after that were heavy and strange. Harper's dad drifted in and out, sometimes calm, sometimes confused. Harper talked to him anyway. She told him about the library kids and the new books that had come in. She told him about the garden at home. She told him about me being back, even when his eyes did not focus. One afternoon, when the sunlight slanted through the window, he opened his eyes and stared at Harper for a long time. His face tightened like he was climbing a hill inside his mind. "Harper," he said, clear as day. Her whole body froze, her eyes filled fast. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Dad. I'm here." He lifted his hand a little, weak but sure. Harper grabbed it like it was a rope keeping her from falling. Then he looked at me, standing beside her. He blinked slowly, and a faint smile tugged at his mouth. "You came back," he said. "I did," I answered, voice thick. He nodded, like that was the only thing he needed to know. Then he turned his eyes back to Harper. "Good," he whispered. "My girl deserves good." Harper broke then, not loud, just silent tears that would not stop. I held her shoulder and let her cry, and her dad closed his eyes again, like he had spent his last clear moment on the only thing that mattered to him. 2 days later, he passed in his sleep. The call came early in the morning. Harper sat on the edge of her bed with the phone pressed to her ear, and I watched her face go blank in that shocked way people look when the world changes in one sentence. She hung up and stared at the wall like she did not know what to do with her hands. "He's gone," she said, barely audible. I climbed out of bed and wrapped my arms around her. She did not cry right away. She just sat there, stiff, like her body had not caught up to her heart. Then it hit her, and she folded into me with a sound I will never forget. It was grief and love and relief and guilt all tangled together. I held her like I could hold her whole world in place. The funeral was small, the way Willow Creek funerals usually were. People showed up with casseroles and quiet hugs. The pastor spoke about a good man and a hard disease. Harper stood beside the casket in a simple black dress, her face pale but calm. I stayed close enough that she could feel me without needing to look. When she started to sway during the last prayer, I slipped my hand into hers. Her fingers clamped down like she was holding on to life. After it was over, we went back to her house. The rooms felt different without the weight of her dad still being alive somewhere. Harper wandered from room to room like she was not sure where to land. I made tea. I put food on a plate even though neither of us was hungry. Lucky was not there because we still did not have a dog, but the silence felt like a pet of its own, curling around our ankles. That evening, Harper went to the hallway and pulled down the attic ladder. She looked at me from the bottom step, eyes red and tired. "I want to see it again," she said. The promise box. Up in the attic, dust floated in the last light from the small window. Harper sat on the floor and opened the shoebox with slow hands. She pulled out the paper, the ring, the marbles, the silly little treasures. Then she held the plastic ring up to the light and laughed once, short and sad. "We were so sure," she whispered. I sat beside her, close enough that our shoulders touched. "Kids make promises like they're playing," I said, "but some promises are just feelings with a name." Harper looked at me, and there was something raw in her face. "I kept hoping," she said. Even when I told myself I was done hoping, I kept it anyway. I reached into my pocket, and my fingers closed around something I had been carrying for days, waiting for the right moment. I had not planned it with a speech. I did not have music or a crowd. I just had a truth I could not keep inside anymore. I pulled out a small box and placed it in her palm. Harper stared at it like she was afraid to open it. "Eli," she whispered, warning and wonder mixed together. "Open it," I said. Her hands shook as she lifted the lid. Inside was a simple silver ring. Nothing flashy, just clean, steady, real. Harper's eyes went wide. She looked up at me like I had just changed the air in the attic. "I'm not offering you a fantasy," I said, voice rough. "I'm offering you me. The grown-up version. The one who knows what it costs to stay and still wants to." Tears slipped down her cheeks again. "Are you asking me to marry you?" she whispered. I took a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff. "Yeah," I said. "I am. Not because of the fair, not because of the box, Because I love you, Harper. Because you are home, and I don't want a life that doesn't have you in it." Harper covered her mouth with her hand, sobbing now, but she was smiling through it. She nodded hard, like she wanted the answer to reach me fast. "Yes," she said. "Yes, Eli. I hoped you'd keep that promise." I slid the ring onto her finger, and her hand trembled against mine. Then she pulled me into her, kissing me with a fierceness that felt like years of waiting, finally letting go. I held her face and kissed her back, and in that dusty attic, in the quiet of the house where she had carried so much alone, it felt like the future finally showed up. Later that night, we sat on the porch swing at my parents' house, the same one we drank lemonade on days earlier. The sky was clear, cold stars bright over the cornfields. Harper rested her head on my shoulder. Her ring caught the porch light when she moved her hand, and she smiled like she still could not believe it was real. "Do you think 10-year-old us would be proud?" she asked softly. I laughed and kissed the top of her head. "10-year-old me would demand ice cream for the whole school year," I said. Harper laughed, and it sounded lighter than it had in weeks. "Then you better start paying up." Quote, I looked out at the quiet street, at the fence between our yards, at the town that once felt too small and now felt like the start of everything. I thought about Chicago and the life I almost forced myself to live. I thought about how close I came to missing this. Harper squeezed my hand. "You're really staying," she said, like she needed to hear it again. I turned to her, and I let my eyes do what my words used to be too scared to do. "I'm staying," I said. "And this time, it's not a joke."